I was thinking about how there are some who struggle with the diet getting boring after a while. It's like you find something that you really like and you will have it, many, many times over the course of a few months. Like you have like a set few meals that you'll have over the course of a few months and they're really, really great. And then after a while, you kind of get bored of them and you're kind of like, you might start to miss some of the old foods that you had. And you don't want to go back to that way of eating, but at the same time, where do you go from here? So I was thinking there are several ways that you could change things up that will help. And I mean, there's a lot of people out there, I think, who aren't very confident cooks. And that's understandable. I wasn't either. I was always helping my mom out with making meals and stuff, but it was always panic mode. So I carried that into my marriage so that I hated cooking. Mealtime, trying to come up with something to make was always panic mode, and the stress and anxiety around it. I hated cooking. I loved simple meals. I loved fast meals, but of course, simple and fast back then was always processed foods. So eventually, though, I felt bad that I didn't understand how to cook very well. And I mean, I had a few meals that I knew I could make, and they were, they always turned out well, but trying new recipes was stressful because I never knew if they were going to turn out. I didn't understand enough about the science behind cooking. So I didn't understand, you need to do this to make this happen. And so I was not confident at all. And for myself, I mean, this was actually way before I started the diet. This was actually even before I started losing weight, like before Weight Watchers. But I really wanted to be good at cooking. And, as a Christian, when you have something that you want to do, you take it to the Lord and you say, help me out. So that was what I did. And shortly after that, I came across the videos by America's Test Kitchen. And those were such a huge help. I could finally start to understand why things worked, how they worked. And I started building my confidence from there. I started making meals that actually tasted really good. So it was good that I got that confidence because I want to say maybe a year and a half later or so, my mom got sick. She moved in with us, and I had to come up with meals that were going to be healthy for her. Now, that was before we started getting her blood sugar under control. We just knew that she wasn't supposed to have very many carbs. She shouldn't have much salt and stuff like that. So anyway, I was up for the challenge, though, because my confidence was higher. So fast forward, I think it was at least 6 years before we started trying to get my mom's blood sugar under control. Again, this was another challenge because I had to start coming up with meals that weren't going to spike her blood sugar. And we found out pretty quickly anything that spiked her blood sugar was processed foods and carbs. So I had to completely rethink the meals that I made because every meal that I made was starch, protein, and vegetables. So trying to reconfigure things and figure out how to just remove the carb. I mean, it really wasn't that hard, but sometimes we depended on the carb for like a certain boost of flavor or whatever. So I had to figure things out. And it was another fun challenge, though, rather than being stressful. So again, though, I was building information up. And in the beginning, we had, it's like that idea of you've got like a handful of meals that you make on a regular basis and they're really good. And then over time, you get tired of them. And I mean, we pretty much wore out broccoli, cauliflower, and bacon. We were thoroughly tired. I mean, I didn't think it was possible to get tired of bacon, but we were. So, but I started looking at other recipes. And for me, what I found was I could see a recipe that even if it was a carb-based recipe, I could pull elements from it and say, you know what? I could try the same idea, but with, say, maybe some chicken instead of pasta. Remove the rice completely and instead just have it like this, Here, that recipe called for potatoes. Well, you know what? I like paneer cheese, and that would actually make a good replacement for the potatoes. It was fascinating, like thinking of things that way. So I found that once I started getting that idea of like, well, let me just see what I can change. That opened up many more doors so that I feel like I'm never bored now with the food. Like I wasn't ever bored in the beginning. It was just I would get to a point where like I'm ready for something new, not I'm bored. I'm bored is a very negative way of looking at it. You want to look at it in a more positive light of what's something new that I can make? Because when you have that attitude, action will follow. The idea of I'm bored doesn't help you take action. So having a more positive approach to it, will help you figure something out. So nowadays, if I get tired of the foods that I'm eating, all I have to do is like I keep a food list. So I have this massive I've got menus and stuff that I can look back on and say, oh my goodness, I remember trying that. That's really good. Or I'll even browse back through my recipes playlist and I'm like, I only ever made that once, but I really loved it. Let me make it again. And yeah, we'll go from there. So I hope this helps. It's really just taking a step back and looking at what you're eating in a different way and saying, what can I change? What can I add in? What can I take out? And, just start cycling through. I know I'm a kind of a type A personality. I feel like everyone is both type A and type B, where it just varies on where you are type A and type B. So this is one area where I'm a bit type A and I like having lists. I like having things that I can look at and say, this is where I want to go. I try not to depend on my memory because my memory is not that great. I'd rather have a list written down so that I can go back and pull from there. Anyway, I hope this helps. Thank you so much for listening. Bye.